Right, hello everyone, and welcome to a new video. If you're new here, my name is Mohammed. We continue our training and the preparation for Elastic Certified Engineer exam, and today we will discuss a new topic. We will see how we can write and execute a query that search across multiple clusters. With that being said, let's jump to our documentation first and see what the documentation said about it. So, search cross clusters or cross-cluster search, it's allow us to run a query, right, from cluster A and get on cluster B and C. So this is the scenario. So let's imagine, for instance, we have cluster in Europe, another in Asia, another one in US, and you want to compare or you want to collect the data that related to agent or client A in a different zones, right? In Europe, Asia, and US. In Elasticsearch, we have this. We call it a cross-cluster search. It's allow us to run a query from this and get the result from the first or the main cluster, and then from the remote clusters. So in this case, we can run a query to get the results or to get the answers from the cluster C and also cluster B and cluster A. To be able to do that, let's go back to the documentation. So this is what you can do. This is the supported APIs. So if you want to run search or async search, multi-search, search templates, and so on and so forth, right? Now the syntax. So this is how it goes. The first, we have to define the remote clusters. So we have two ways. Even we do it from the dev tools, right, from the command line using DSL query, or I will show you in instance how we do it from the UI, from Kibana. So here, what we have, the persistent cluster remote, and here the first remote cluster. So we call it cluster 1, and we give the IP address and the port, right? This is the first thing. The second is the same, like give it a name, and the C is like to search for the other nodes or one node from the other cluster, as you can see here. And lastly, we have the cluster 3 here, seeds, and here we give the IP, and here we give the port, right? Now, if we want to do it from the UI, you can come here to stack management, right? And if you search here remote cluster, so if you have this scenario in the exam, so the first thing you have to check if they did the remote cluster or no. If yes, it's okay, you can just run your query. I will show you the syntax in a second. Otherwise, you have to come here and you remove and you create a remote cluster, even using this way from the UI as I'm showing you here, or from the dev tools, right? So you come here, and here you give the name. For example, we said cluster 1, right? And here, for example, I just copy paste the examples that we have here, right? And you come here. In this way, right? And here you click next, and here you have to establish the trust, right? What this mean is, like, we know the communication between the nodes is using the transport level, and the communication, it should be secured, right? Even we use a certificate, right? So they should have the same certificate, like the cluster A and the cluster B. They should have, or both, they should have the same CA or certificate authority to be able to communicate safely. Otherwise, we can generate an API key and add the API key here. Then we click add a remote. So here, for example, like this. So in my case, it will not work, but this is the steps to add a remote cluster. This is the first thing. Now the second, like, you want to run your search query. So we said for customer A, for example, right, you want to get the result from this zone and this zone and this zone as well, right? So how you do that? Here in the search query, you specify, let's copy the syntax and analyze it here. Here we go. So as you can see here, there's no connection, right? And this is expected. I don't know this IP, and they don't have another cluster here locally. So to be able to do that, so you come here. Now, if you want to run your query, let's go just here like this, right? I can paste. So here you call the cluster 1, right? Or if you have another cluster also, sorry, you can add it here. So you add the cluster 1 and here a comma, and you call, for example, a cluster 2, and then you specify the index, right? You specify the index. So whatever, like you can use this one for as an example. Here you call the search, and here you specify your query. Now, the only difference between normal search query and cross cluster search is this one. In our search, you have to specify the name of the cluster, and again, this one you have to add it first here in the remote cluster. You have to make sure that you add it here and it works fine, right? This was a quick video about the cross cluster search. Let me know in the comment section if you have questions or if you face any issues or errors, and we'll see you in the next video.